All right. So, last week, we were on this journey. And we were on this journey with Abraham, where we talked about waiting on the Lord. And we talked about how when we wait on the Lord, there's three things that we need to understand when we're waiting for the Lord. That while we're waiting, God builds our character, that God will reaffirm what he's trying to tell to us over and over and over again, and then eventually God delivers on his promise. So today, we're going to step into part 2 of waiting on the Lord. Now, as we wait for the Lord, I just want to say that if something is resonating with you, like as I'm standing up here, that I like talk back. So if something's resonating with you, feel free to say amen, because that helps. Thank you. So thank you. But today we're going to talk about waiting on the Lord. So last week we journeyed, and it was a long journey for Abraham. He waited so long on this promise, a promise that he was going to have so many offspring, and his wife Sarah was barren, and she couldn't have a child. And eventually, after going through all these different steps, after going through these steps of having Abraham have his Ishmael, and eventually laughing, saying, you know what, there's no way that I can get pregnant. There's no way that he's going to come through. Eventually, God kept telling them both, listen, you're going to have this child. He gets more specific. You're going to have this son. And then eventually, he receives his Isaac blessing. So he gets his Isaac, his son. And today, we're going to pick up right where we left off. So as we're waiting on the Lord, part 2, and I'm going to tell you the three things right off the bat. There's three things that we need to understand when we're waiting on the Lord. Step 1, which is God delivers on his promise, which is exactly how he ended. So which means now you have your promise. So God delivers on your promise. Step 2 is what a lot of us tend to go through, is that even though we get the promise isn't enough, or we feel that the promise isn't enough. And then we get to 3, which is God tests our faith. So, number 1, God delivers on his promise. Everything that I read from is from the New International Version, so NIV. We're going to Genesis 21, verses 1 through 7. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, and as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse the children? Yes, I have borne him a son in his old age. So who would have told Sarah that she would have borne him a child? God, because God said it from the very beginning. God already told him, and he told him, as I stated last week, he told him over and over again, your blessing is coming. You're going to have a son. But I'm barren. I can't have you're going to have a son. You're going to name the son Isaac. And then they received their promise. They got their Isaac. So now we're at the point where you have your son, you have your blessing. And when we talk about God, God is in the business of delivering on his promises. And he reaffirms that plan for us over and over again, just like he did for Abraham. However, The issues come up because we, as a people, don't like to focus on the faith that Abraham had. Instead, we don't even like to focus on the faith that we received from our own journey. Instead, we start looking at what others have. So yeah, you get your promise, but you look at what others have along your journeys. And what do others have? What do we like to just run our mouths about? A lot of these things start with the letter P. And let me just tell you about myself. So when I was in 11th grade, and this goes right into this. So when I was in 11th grade, God blessed me with so many things. I was in the church. I was in the youth group. I was serving. But was any of that important? No. Because as Todd Roman would say, which is my father, that whenever Todd gets something, he forgets about you. That's in a less vulgar way, but that's what he would say. So whenever I get something, that I would forget about you. So when I was in high school, even though God was giving me promises, he was giving me blessings, he was setting me up with so many great things. When I was junior year in high school, he blessed me with being prom prince for junior prom. When I was a senior in high school, he allowed me to become vice president of student government, president of National Honor Society, and graduated valedictorian. But as great as all those things were, I don't think it was more about thanking God for what he gave to me. It became more of a case of I needed the power, and I needed the position. And that's the problem that we tend to have when we think about all these gifts that God has given us. He's given us these promises, but then we lose sight of the one who gave that stuff to us. We focus more on the gift instead of the giver. And these are just some of the things that we tend to, we talk and we talk and we talk and we run our mouths about. And they all begin with the letter P. So the first thing is power. Yes, power. I need the power. When I'm like this, I'm going to do such and such because I love that. I love to be in control. Or we care about position. And yes, position doesn't just mean at your job. It could be even some of you in the church today. Like, oh, I don't like who's leading this ministry. Or I don't like who's leading or who's serving on my team. But you know what? When I become in this position, I'm going to do things my way. Not the right attitude. Or we start worrying about promotions. Oh, yes, I see Johnny at work. He got this promotion. And you know what? I need this for myself. I need to get that because I need to get this money. Or pregnancy. You know what? God, you have given me this promise, and you told me that I'm going to be pregnant, but yet my cousin is getting pregnant, and they're not serving God. Or my family member who's doing all the wrong things, they gotten pregnant, but I'm the one that's in church, and I'm serving, and yet you haven't blessed me. So when are you going to do for me that you promised? And another thing that a lot of people get caught up in, possessions and property. You know what? If I get this new car, if I get this piece of property, if I get this land, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this, and I'm going to style it off, and I'm going to show off what I have. Yeah, that's all great and dandy, but those are all things that once you get those things, even though you might have prayed for them, even though they look like good promises, that once you get attached to them, you totally lose sight of who was able to bless you with those things. And those things become more important than your time with God. And then, instead of focusing on all these little things that we feel that we need in order to be, that we need to have the power, the position, the promotions, the pregnancy, the property, the possessions. Instead, we need to let go of those things, and we need to stop comparing ourselves to others, and we need to focus on the good things that God has given us. We need to focus on the person who made us wait in the first place, and the person who's out in the business to give us purpose, the one who's out in the business to give us patience, the one who's in the business to give you a plan and a promise. And those things are what only God can give us. As we talked about last week, we talked about as we're waiting for the promise, there's three certain fruit of the Spirit that have to deal with like the waiting, the promise. So when you're waiting on your purpose, that's the self-control, knowing, like, you know what? My thoughts are going to be focused on you. I'm going to be locked in to the things of the Spirit. I'm going to focus on the one who has given me purpose and who's going to give me the drive to tell me right from wrong. I'm going to be able to be patient. So instead of being impatient because things aren't going your way when you want them, you're going to be able to breathe and say, you know what? I can wait for the one who's going to eventually give it to me. Instead of being impatient when you're stuck at that red light and you're waiting for somebody and it turns green and people are starting to drive right away and you're blowing the horn saying, hurry up, go, step on the gas, go, go, go. You can just breathe. Patience equates to long suffering. And then your plan and your purpose, but your plan and the promise equates to your faithfulness. Are you willing to fully put your trust in the one, even when things don't seem like it's going to happen in the timing that you thought it was going to happen? So these are the things that God is allowing us to go through. He's given us a purpose. He's given us patience. He has a plan for you, and he has promise. So he has given you all those things, but yet, as he's giving you those things, we still don't think it's enough because we're impatient people. Instead of waiting on that promise, we want things now. You could equate that to being a New Yorker if you want, because that's just the mentality we have in here. We're always on the go. We always want things right then and there. If Starbucks doesn't have your coffee right then and there, you get upset. If you drive through a drive-through and it's not ready, it's go. The same way that those people that work in those fast food restaurants, that they're impatient with you because they're running on the clock, that when you drive up and your food's not ready and you're like, oh, and they tell you, pull ahead. And then you're like, why isn't it ready? We just need to breathe and be patient. But then, that promise isn't enough. We take matters into our own hands. Instead of waiting for us to receive our Isaac blessing, being in a position where we're like, you know what? The Isaac is coming. We know that he promised Isaac to us. We're so quick to get our Ishmael. We're so quick to say, you know what, maybe this was the plan that you had for me, even though he said, yeah, there's your blessing, but this is where my covenant is at. But we don't want to get to this place because we're so focused on having the plan B, the plan C, the plan D, but we're not going through God who's saying, listen, I have an Isaac for you. It's coming. You just need to wait and wait on my timing. And the promise isn't enough. So before we continue on the journey with Abraham, we're going to take a little detour, and we're going to jump a little ahead to Psalm 37, one of the most famous Psalms. And this talks about King David is giving wisdom to people. And this talks about what we go through. And how many of you, when you're waiting on your promise, you probably get caught up in like saying, you know what? God promised this to me, and I know that he's going to come through, and I know that he's going to deliver on his promise, but instead of keeping it between you and God, you start running your mouth and you start trying to share that promise to the wrong people. And the wrong people that you share that promise to, they're not out there to lift you up. Some of those people are out there to see you fail. They're out there to see you get destroyed. They're out there because they don't want your best interests. But instead of saying, you know what, I believe in that God, I'm going to keep this between you and me. I'm going to just pray and focus on that. You still can't help but to just overtalk, and you share stuff with the wrong people. And it could probably be a coworker. And a lot of coworkers, and this is just an example, a lot of coworkers, when you're trying to showcase and share how you feel your future is going to go, and how you feel like, you know what, I feel like the promotion is in the graphs, and I feel like I can get there. Most of the times, a coworker is exactly just that. They're just a coworker. They're not your friend. They're not on your side. They're not looking for your best interests, because as much as you want to talk up yourself because you feel like you know that God has that promise for you, at the same time, they could be wanting that same promotion. So they may be quick to go behind your back, and they might say things about you. They may start rumors about you. They may get you into a place where you start feeling down about who you are as a person, even though God tells you different. But we don't focus on God in this instance. We focused on what we think. And it says in Psalm 37, this is basically how we deal with these type of situations. Starting in verse 1. Do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong. So if there's people out there who do evil, they do evil. And do not be jealous. Do not be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. And I think that's something that we just need to do. So when stuff comes against you, trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So what are the desires of your heart? If you take delight in the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart. So the desires of your heart sounds like the promise. It sounds like what he has promised you. And what are the desires of your heart? God knows what you want. God knows what you need. And sometimes we get caught up in the want and not getting caught up with the need. And things such as the needs are, you know what? I went to the doctor, and the doctor gave me a bad report. But I have a God that says I'm the ultimate doctor. Or I get into a place where I've been praying and praying and praying for that child. And God, you promised that you were going to bless me with a child. Instead of feeling down about others or why this family member got pregnant and had their baby, or they didn't deserve it, don't be envious of what they have. Take delight in what the Lord is going to give you, and trust in the Lord and what he's going to do for you. So it's telling us how we can deal with that type of situation right here. Verse 5, commit your way to the Lord. Once again, trust in him and he will do this. So he's in the business of being a miracle worker. He's going to just trust in him. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, and your vindication like the noonday sun. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. What's it say? Wait patiently for him. And sometimes that word patience, we can substitute it for long-suffering. Long-suffering wasn't meant to be easy, but be patient. Wait. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, or when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil. So even when people come against you and they try to rub things in your face, or they try to tell you, listen, I know you've been waiting for this, but hey, I got pregnant and I had mines. Or I know you've been waiting for this, but I got that promotion before you did. Don't worry about what they're doing. You just worry about staying faithful. And don't get angry with them. Don't get angry. Because if you allow the bitterness to come into your heart, a wise person once said that bitterness is the poison you drink while you're waiting for the other person to die. So do not let that bitterness enter you, because then you're just going to be just like them. But when you have God, you're supposed to be different. Verse 9. For those who are evil will be destroyed, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. A little while, and the wicked will be no more. Though you look for them, they will not be found. But the meek will inherit the land and enjoy peace and prosperity. Other two good words that start with P that the Lord is going to give you: peace and prosperity. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming. The wicked draw the sword and bend the bow to bring down the poor and the needy, to slay those whose ways are upright. But their swords will pierce their own hearts, and their bows will be broken. Better the little that the righteous have than the wealth of many wicked. For the power of the wicked will be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. So don't get caught up in the evil stuff. Don't get caught up in what everybody else is doing. But hold on to your faith. Hold on to your trust in the Lord. Because by better the little that the righteous have. And what did we learn from a different scripture? About having the faith the size of a mustard seed. That even if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move in a mountain. So hold on to the little. Verse 18. The blameless spend their days under the Lord's care, and their inheritance will endure forever. In times of disaster, they will not wither. In days of famine, they will enjoy plenty. But the wicked will perish. Though the Lord's enemies are like the flowers of the field, they will be consumed, and they will go up in smoke. The wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously. The righteous give generously. So even when you receive your promise, even when you do get all those other things, such as you do get the power, you do get the position, you do get the property of possessions, don't forget the one who brought you there. Don't forget those things, and make sure that you give back. Those the Lord blesses, verse 22, those the Lord blesses will inherit the land, but those he curses will be destroyed. The Lord makes firm the steps. What did we say earlier? We build our life on what? Firm foundation. The Lord makes firm the step of the one who delights in him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. So as we are on this journey, and we're on this journey of waiting and waiting and waiting, there are going to be times where we come across situations where we might stumble, we might trip. But God's saying, you may have tripped, but you didn't fall. And even if you did fall down, he's there to help pick you back up. And he keeps you firm. 25, I was young and now I am old, yet I have never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. They are always generous and lend freely. Their children will be a blessing. Turn from evil and do good, then you will dwell in the land forever. For the Lord loves the just and will not forsake his faithful ones. Wrongdoers will be completely destroyed. The offspring of the wicked will perish. The righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it forever. The mouths of the righteous utter wisdom, and their tongues speak what is just. The law of their God is in their hearts. Their feet do not slip. As we said before, they don't slip. The wicked lie in wait for the righteous, intent on putting them to death. But the Lord will not leave them in the power of the wicked, or let them be condemned when he brought to trial. Hope in the Lord and keep his way. He will exalt you to inherit the land when the wicked are destroyed, and you will see it. I have seen a wicked and ruthless man flourishing like a luxuriant native tree, but he soon passed away and was no more. Though I looked for him, he could not be found. Consider the blameless, observe the upright. A future await those who seek peace, but all sinners will be destroyed. There will be no future for the wicked. The salvation of the righteous comes from the Lord. He is their stronghold in times of trouble. The Lord helps them and delivers them. He delivers them from the wicked and saves them because they take refuge in him. So what did we learn? That no matter what, God has made us firm. And as we're going through journeys, there are going to be times where you're going to have to be faith tested. You're going to have to be battle tested. If you weren't battle tested and faith tested, then you're following the wrong religion, because everything about this is being able to showcase that, listen, my faith is going to carry me through. Even when things seem impossible, even when enemies come up against me, even when I may be up against something where the world doesn't want good for me, we don't take refuge in those things, but we take refuge in the one who has given us the firm ground, who has built us on, that we're able to stand on a firm foundation, and that we could take refuge in him. And as long as we take refuge in him, and as long as we focus on him and his promises, then we know that he has a plan and a purpose for each and every single one of us. Way before you were even born, he knew your plans. He knew what he wanted for you. He knew what your future was. And that was just what he did for us. But now everyone in here, has their own things that they need to do. They can't backslide or front slide. But instead, you need to step towards Jesus. You need to step towards God and let him take over and showcase that you're above getting caught up in the things that will bring jealousy and the things that will bring us to have the wrong spirit about life. We need to get caught up in the things of him and not get caught up in the things that we get from the world that we think makes us special. So as I said before, don't get caught up in the gift, get caught up in the giver of that gift. And that's what we need to focus on. So now that we have the steps, we know what we need to do, we see that, you know what? There's a lot of different things, and David put it nicely. He wrote a beautiful psalm of things that we need to focus on, especially when we're dealing with enemies, and we know that God is going to give us all the desires of our heart, and he knows what's going on inside. But now let's go back to Abraham. So let's go back to Abraham, and we're going to go to chapter 21 in Genesis, verses 8 to 21. So now after they had got their blessing, they got their promise, they got their Isaac, let's see what plays out. So verse 8, the child grew and was weaned. And on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had born to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share an inheritance with my son Isaac. The matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his son. But God said to him, do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the slave into a nation because he is your offspring. So what God is saying here is he's only telling Abraham stuff he already told him before. Didn't we deal with Sarah and Hagar before Sarah got pregnant? We already dealt with this, and now issues come up again because now her son, Isaac, is getting mocked. And Abraham is caught up like, you know what? What am I going to do? Who do I listen to? What am I going to do? And God is telling him, listen, you know what? Go listen to your wife at this point. Do whatever she tells you. Men, go listen to your wife. Do whatever she tells you. Might be a hard concept at sometimes. Might be a hard concept to say, you know what? Yes, babe, but go to marriage ministry. They'll teach you. Happy wife, happy life. Amen? But you know what? Do whatever she tells you at this point. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also because he is your offspring. 14. Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders and then set her off with the boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off and sat down about a bow shot away, for she thought, I cannot watch the boy die. And as she sat there, she began to sob. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation. God is just saying the same thing he's been saying from the jump. He's been reaffirming this. He's gonna bless Ishmael too. He's gonna make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. So there's a couple of different people within this scenario. So, and I'm sure that as we look at some of these people within this chapter, some of you can probably relate with them. Perhaps some of you are the Isaac, and meaning that you're probably the one that was on the side that you had the favoritism show towards you. You know, people protected you. You were chosen. You were the favorite. Okay? Perhaps you might be the Ishmael. You might feel that you were the outcast, that you weren't really tight with your family, that you felt like you didn't really belong. Amen? Some of you might have grown up being in a household with step-parents, and you knew that something was different about you, but yet you see your other siblings and they're getting treated a certain way, but you didn't get the same treatment. Or perhaps you're a Sarah, and as a Sarah here, you got your blessing, but yet instead of focusing on your blessing, you're focused on, nobody's going to touch my son like that. No one's going to mock my son. Instead of being just like happy about it, is like, you know what, Abraham, you need to do something about this. You need to do something about this woman, or you need to get her out of there. Perhaps that might be you. And you might be in a place where, you know what? Yeah, I got my blessing, and I don't care for other people in the vicinity of me, because as long as I got mine, I'm good. And even though other people may be, in your way, you don't care about those other people because you got yours. Or you could be an Abraham. You're like, you know what? What do I do? What do I have to go through? What do you want me to do, Lord? So there's different types of people, and we just need to understand where we are and what we need to do. But the main focus in there is that even though you got your promise, even though God delivered on the promise, it just wasn't enough, because now comes the expectation of, I need more. I want more. And sometimes the more you get is the more that you start going down the wrong path. It's the more that you forget about the one who got you there and you focus on the actual talent or the gift instead of the giver. And that brings us to 3. So when we get consumed with all of these things, God is going to test us. Now, does anyone here like tests? Sure not, right? What is a test? Or why are tests important? But from God's point of view, tests are not a bad thing. In fact, part of being a follower of God is knowing that you need to be battle tested. You need to be faith tested, because what a test does is it showcases trials. And all a trial is a trial is going to reveal what's in your heart. God, as we said before, God knows the desires of your heart. So if you have a trial, it's just going to reveal what's deep inside that heart. And tests, they're just a part of life. Some tests can be difficult, tests can be painful, but the most important thing about a test is that they allow us to prove ourselves in what we know. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth is going to speak. And what are some situations where we get tested? How many of you gone for interview? I'm sure everyone's in here been through an interview. All an interview is, when you're having a face-to-face and you're looking for that job, what they're basically doing is they're testing you to see if you're going to be a good fit for this position. And when you get that interview, it's basically a test. How are you going to show up to your interview? How you show up is going to speak volumes for who you are as a character. Are you someone that's going to show up on time? Are you someone who's going to show up to the interview 20 minutes early saying, you know what, I'm here, I'm taking this serious? Are you the one that's going to show up late? Or are you the one that's going to no-show? So that first interaction speaks volumes. And as they say, as the saying goes, or I'm trying to remember the saying, but when you first meet somebody, that first interaction, that first face-to-face, that first meeting will speak to who you are. So what does it say about your character? Who are you? What are you going to do? Speaks everything. Or driving test. Do you know how to drive? We're just going to go over the most basic of things, and this will showcase if you are good enough to be on the road, or perhaps you need more training. For me, I took my license tests a good 8 times before I started to pass. So, and then once you pass, it's like, yes, overcome that hurdle. But it's just to showcase, what do you know? So this is where we get to Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 19. And God is testing Abraham. God is testing him, and he's telling Abraham, listen, you know what? You got your son. You got the son that was promised to you, the son that we build the covenant with, the very basis of everything, the son that I gave you. This is your most favorite thing in life. You got it. But now, what are you going to do when the very thing that you wanted, that you desired the most, tends to take away time from me? And that's just like an everyday situation for us. What do we do when we're confronted with the thing? Are we in a position where we finally get what we wanted? We finally get that promise. But now God is saying, are you still going to follow me if I take that promise away? So are you still good? Even if you got that promotion and God said, listen, I gave you the desires of your heart. I gave you that promotion. But then a week later, you lose your job. Are you still good? Are you still faithful in relying on God who brought you there and took you out? Because as quick as he put you in the circumstance, he can quickly take you out of that. And that's with anything. That could be with a child. That can be with a job, a position. Everything you get can just go away, just like that. So in Genesis 22, verses 1 through 19, sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Early in the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. So let's take a look at this. So you have Abraham. So now God is telling Abraham, listen, you're going to use your son as a sacrifice. Now, if you all are in that position, and it doesn't have to be your kid, but think of the most important thing in your life. If you're married, listen, I want you to give up that spouse that I worked so hard for you to get attached. You can give up that spouse. Or that child that you have. You got that one child. I want you to give up that one child. Or that job. You finally waited years and years and years for that job. I'm gonna take away that job. How do you think all of you would be in this room if you were faced with that circumstance? Would you be able to do it? Would you easily be able to give it up? The thing about Abraham is he was straight business. So he knew, as we see from verse 2, that he gets the mission. Listen, you're going to get your son, Isaac, the one that we talked about the covenant with, the one that I promised you, and you're going to sacrifice him as a burnt offering. And I'm going to show you the mountain. I'm going to show you that mountain. And then as we look at verse 3, early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. What's it say? Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. So what this shows me is that Abraham was straight business. He didn't take his time and he didn't say, do I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? Is this the thing? No, he got up early in the morning and he loaded the donkey. So he started to follow. So when God told him to do something, he was quick on it. He heard him. And when he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you." So, wait a minute. So, you mean to tell me that Abraham saw in verse 3, early in the morning, he loaded up the donkey, so he knew that he was going to sacrifice his son. But then on the third day, he looked up, he saw the place in the distance, and he said to the servant, "Stay with him, stay with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." He didn't say I was going to come back. He said we are going to come back to you. So deep down, he knew that, or he was expecting something was going to happen. He just didn't see it yet. But he knew that something was going to happen. Even though he loaded up his son, to be sacrificed. He knew that we would come back to you. And Abraham, verse 6, Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. And he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father, Abraham, "Father." "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and the wood are here." Isaac said, "But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the two of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. So Abraham goes out, and he's going to sacrifice his son. And he sets him up with the wood. He makes him carry the wood, makes him do all this thing, and he sets him up, and he's going to slay his son. And the very moment he's going to slay his son, he hears someone call out to him. And when he gets called out on, it says, I've seen the things that you have done. Do not sacrifice your son. But at the same time, he looked up, and in the thicket, he saw a ram. So what does this tell me? This tells me that he was being faith tested. He was getting ready to be in a position where God was testing to see what he was going to do. And the truth is, God already knew what was going to happen before it was even going to happen. The fact is that when he looked up and he saw the ram, and in some versions it says that the ram was behind him, that means the ram was already there. See, God already had set up the substitute already. He just wanted to see if Abraham was going to be in a position where he would be able to give up the gift and focus on the giver. And Abraham was ready to do that. And when he looked up, he saw in the thicket there had been a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me." Then Abraham returned his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba. And Abraham stayed in Beersheba. So, isn't that an amazing story? So God had prepared, or he already had prepared the substitute. And he just needed to see if Abraham was going to be faith tested. And Abraham, he passed the test because he focused on God, and he didn't get caught up in holding on to his son, that he was able to focus on the giver. And how many of you are in this building today and you say, "You know what? I'm holding on to stuff, but I'm not ready to look at the giver." Now, as we look at that, and that's great, right? A father and a son. They go up together, and Abraham has the confidence and says, "You know what? We're going to come back together." You can jump further ahead in the Bible. Further ahead in the Bible, where a father and son go up a mountain. And who is that father and son? That father and son is Jesus with his father. Now, the thing about Abraham, when God tells Abraham, give up your son, and that's the big thing, is that God is not telling Abraham to do something out of the ordinary. And he's not telling him something that he himself wouldn't do. Because then when Jesus Christ comes, God takes his son and uses him as the sacrifice. He uses him as the lamb. And when the thing is, when Jesus goes up and similar type of situation, he's going up, he's carrying the wood, he's getting brutalized like an animal on that mountain. And he, at this point, it's not a test of faith, but Jesus becomes the ultimate substitute. And he becomes the ultimate substitute for why? What's God doing? He becomes the substitute for humanity. So Jesus is slayed because he's the substitute for humanity. Now, because he is the substitute, all of you can sit here in this building today and you can worship him. You can have a future. You can have the ultimate promise. And that ultimate promise is knowing that one day, as long as you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, you know in your heart that he saved you, you have access to the Father. And you have access to have the ultimate promise, the ultimate gift. And that ultimate gift is being able to be in heaven and to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant, enter into the joy of the Lord. So that is the ultimate promise. So Jesus becomes the ultimate substitute. So as we look at it, we know, and worship team, you guys can start working your way up, but they weren't the only father and son pair, Abraham and Isaac, to come down from the mountain. Because later on, Jesus and his father, they both come down, because even though Jesus gets slayed on that mountain, he escapes death. He beats death. And together, now through him, we have access to the Father. We have access to the one who gives the gifts. And the gift he gave was the ultimate gift. See, and Jesus took on the sins of humanity. And why? Why did Jesus have to be that sacrifice? Because at the end of the day, we're guilty. We're guilty of sin. Everyone here sins. And I know there's a lot of people in this building today. And maybe you've been going through something and you said, you know what? God, I've been waiting on that promise. You promised that you would give me so much. You promised that I would have that job. I would have that clean bill of health. I would have that pregnancy. But I'm stuck on the things that you gave instead of being focused on you. And this is what this is all about. We need to get back to you because you are the one who gave us the things. And at this time, if you guys want to just, if you're going through something, if something is afflicting you, then you can come up. There's different people in this building today. There's some people who said, you know what? This Jesus that you talked about, who made the ultimate sacrifice, I don't know who he is. Perhaps I need to seek more of him. I need him in my life. And if that's you, you can come up front and we can introduce you to that Jesus so that you can accept him as your Savior. And then for others, there's, you know what? I've been so focused on getting something, getting, and not focus on the giver. I've been focused so much on all these promises, but when caught under pressure, I'm not focused on you. And if that's you today, and you want to say, you know what, just give me the ability to go back to you, then come up front and come seek him. He's in the business of giving you all the desires of your heart. He's in the business of knowing you. But the big thing is you have to know him. And the big thing is you have to be able to say, you know what? I don't mind being faith tested. And some of you have been faith tested, and you've been in a position where you failed the test, and you know you're failing the test. But as long as you have breath in your lungs, then it's not a full failure, because you can always go back to him, and that's why Jesus died for you. So I'm just opening up the altars to you. The worship team is going to sing a song for us. And if you need prayer, just come up front, and we just want to pray over you and just say a word over you, okay? Amen.